When I was 6, my parents had a baby brother. Squatting in a corner, I witnessed someone swap my brother with another infant. Silently, I switched them back without telling a soul. 18 years later, a shabbily dressed young man, his clothes washed thin and pale, ran to my parents, weeping inconsolably. "Mom, Dad, you've been doting on the wrong son. I'm your real child." Chapter 1. When I returned home after closing a billion-dollar deal, I found the atmosphere strangely tense. "Ah, Shen, you're finally back. Something big has happened." Mom hugged me, her eyes red. "Your brother, Xiaochuan, might not be our child." My parents began to recount the events that unfolded while I was away. Apparently, shortly after I left, a shabbily dressed, threadbare teenager showed up at our doorstep, crying his heart out. "Mom, Dad, you've been doting on the wrong son. That Lin Chuan is a fake. His father switched us at birth." This had apparently distressed my parents all day. I understood. "So, you believed him? You're so gullible. Here, transfer $1 billion to me. Let me see just how gullible you are." My parents glared at me and started explaining why they believed the teenager. "You don't understand. He knew your brother's exact birth date, even the name of the attending doctor. He knew everything in detail." My expression remained unchanged. "Oh, and that information was known by a lot of people back then." "There's more." Mom paused for a moment. "Remember Grandma's heirloom jade bracelet? He has it." Dad nodded. "That's right. When your brother was born, your grandma was still alive. She adored him and insisted on putting the bracelet in his swaddling clothes, saying it was for him to use when he grew up and got married. But later, when your grandma remembered the bracelet, she couldn't find it anywhere. She regretted losing it until the day she died." Their words reminded me of something. I was 6 when Xiaochuan was born. The nanny took me to the hospital and pointed to Xiaochuan, saying this was the new little brother Mom and Dad had given me. I liked him a lot and stared at him for a long time. Dad had to go back to the company for something, and Mom was so tired she fell asleep. The nanny received a phone call and left in a hurry. I was also sleepy and dozed off in the corner behind the curtain. When I woke up, I saw a man sneaking in. He put the baby in his arms into my brother's crib and took my brother away. I immediately rushed out and saw the man enter the room at the end of the corridor. I didn't leave. I waited until the man and a haggard-looking woman in a hospital gown were talking in the corner. Avoiding their line of sight, I snuck into the room from their blind spot and swapped the babies back. I never told anyone about this. It happened so long ago that I thought it was a dream, something unreal. I organized my thoughts. So now someone has shown up with Grandma's jade bracelet, claiming to be my parents' son? Regardless of whether that memory was a dream or not, if it was real, then Xiaochuan is my brother, the brother I protected with my own hands. If it wasn't, that's even better. It means my brother was never switched. I pulled myself back to the present and looked at my parents. "So, how did you settle him?" Mom hesitated for a moment, then said somewhat guiltily, "Remember that villa not far from our house?" "What?" I could hardly believe my ears. "You not only arranged a house for him, but it's also near our home? Are you out of your minds?" Chapter 2. Mom pursed her lips. "He has had a hard life these years." I sneered. "Oh, are you planning to acknowledge him? Did you do a paternity test?" They were silent for a moment. "If the test results show it's really," Dad said halfway, then stopped, his voice already a little choked. I understood what they meant. They were afraid. Afraid that all of this was true. Afraid that their biological son had suffered for 18 years outside. Afraid that this son, Xiaochuan, was truly fake. Paternity test, it must be done. I made a firm decision. Find time to go find that person, collect what needs to be collected, and be sure to do it personally. As for Xiaochuan's side, I was silent for a moment. Let's keep it from him for now. Otherwise, he might be sad if he knew. Mom and Dad agreed. Regardless of whether Xiaochuan was their biological son or not, the 18 years of love was not fake after all. After the plan was decided, Mom and Dad were still anxious. Xiaoshun, if just in case this thing is true, Xiaochuan sighed. I looked up and seriously looked at them. Then report to the police, confess to the crime. As for the other victim, you guys handle it yourselves. Anyway, Xiaochuan is with me. I will take care of him, and coincidentally, isn't he just 18 years old? He doesn't need you. Mom and Dad's lips moved a few times, not knowing what to say. Just when I thought this matter could be resolved quickly, something happened at Xiaochuan's school. It was said that Xiaochuan fought with someone. I was a little surprised. In my impression, Xiao Chuan was very gentle and had never even argued with anyone. When I rushed to the school in a hurry, Xiao Chuan's fists were still clenched, and his eyes were red with anger. My heart skipped a beat, fearing that he was injured. Xiao Chuan, how are you? Are you all right? I checked him back and forth 2 or 3 times, confirming that Xiao Chuan was indeed not injured. Then I breathed a sigh of relief. As soon as Xiao Chuan saw me, he complained, "Brother, your fiancée, Zhang Yunhui, that shameless woman is hooking up with other men." Zhang Yunhui, the daughter of the Zhang family. She is my marriage partner. We don't have deep feelings. I agreed to the marriage only because my first impression of her was okay. Hearing this, I looked at Zhang Yunhui, whose nose was bruised. What happened? At this time, a young man was also standing next to Zhang Yunhui. The young man was about the same age as Xiao Chuan, but his clothes were washed white. The two were very close, and it was obvious that their relationship was unusual. "Lin Shen, is your brother crazy? Hitting even women? What kind of man is he? Also, Meng Yu and I are just friends. Why is he acting crazy?" Lin Chuan's fists hardened again, directly wanting to punch again. "What are you pretending for? I even saw you secretly kissing him. Shameless." I hurriedly pulled Lin Chuan back and looked at the young man beside Zhang Yunhui. This person's attire did not look like he came from high society. Including his every move, he did not look like a young master cultivated by a wealthy family. And I have never seen him at banquets. It seems to be an ordinary person. Then, how could the Zhang family's young lady know him? A guilty look flashed across Zhang Yunhui's face. He is just a friend of mine. We are all in the same school. And then coincidentally, we got to know each other. Before I could speak, Lin Chuan exploded. "Try pretending again." Your mouth was almost glued to his face. "I didn't know your Zhang family's upbringing was like this. I'll go back and ask Uncle Zhang and Aunt Zhang." Lin Chuan has always been unable to bear to see me wronged. He doesn't know that our marriage is purely a business marriage, and thinks that I really like Zhang Yunhui. Now Lin Chuan is full of thorns, wishing he could stab Zhang Yunhui to death directly. The teacher who arrived at the scene began to discuss solutions with us. Before I could express my opinion, Zhang Yunhui coldly spoke. "If you want to solve this matter, this Lin Chuan dared to hit me, he must apologize." Chapter 3. My gaze landed on Zhang Yunhui. Today she seemed particularly bold and unrestrained. "Xiao Chuan, do you not know why he hit you? You want him to apologize to you? Have you no shame?" Zhang Yunhui's face turned from pale to green. Before she could speak, the young man beside her spoke first. "Brother, you've all misunderstood. Yunhui and I are really just friends." His words were dripping with insincerity. The tea aroma was practically overflowing. "Do you have no shame? Good G this, GG that. Are you trying to lay an egg? Such a grown man acting like a green tea, B*T6. Zhang Yunhui frowned and suddenly jumped out, looking furious. "Lin Shen, enough. A Yu is your own younger brother. Do you have to humiliate him like this? Let me tell you the truth. This younger brother you're protecting with all your heart is a fake." My eyes narrowed, and I had some guesses in my mind. Before I could speak, Lin Chuan beside me exploded again. "Are you guys sick in the head? Who isn't my brother's brother? Do you have no shame? Never had a brother in 8 lifetimes, so you want to steal my brother?" I didn't speak, seeming to tacitly agree with Lin Chuan's words. In the next second, Meng Yu's eyes instantly turned red. Coupled with his fairly handsome face, it was extremely eye-catching, giving people the feeling of being greatly wronged. I frowned. Then I heard Zhang Yunhui's angry voice again. "Lin Chuan, let me tell you the truth. You are not a Lin family child. You were switched out by your biological father. He, Meng Yu, is the Lin family's child." Meng Yu, indeed, was the young man whom my parents mentioned was coming to recognize his family. This was really strange. When did Meng Yu get mixed up with Zhang Yunhui? And how much of Zhang Yunhui's influence is there in this matter? While I was thinking, the surrounding voices of discussion forcibly pulled me back. I had a headache. I originally planned to block the news, but not only did Xiao Chuan find out, it seemed like the whole world was about to know. This matter could no longer be concealed. Lin Chuan didn't believe it at first, until Zhang Yunhui turned the spearhead towards me. "He is so capable. He must know about this. You don't believe it? Then ask him." Lin Chuan looked at me. "Brother, What he said, is it true? For a moment, I didn't know how to tell Xiao Chuan. Seeing that I didn't answer immediately, Lin Chuan instantly understood the answer, and his face turned pale. I could understand. Anyone would be panicked when faced with this kind of thing, but no matter what, I would never abandon my brother. Chapter 4. The world was silent for a moment, a silence that made Meng Yu feel out of place. Brother, Yinhui and I are really just friends. The reason we're closer is because she helped me see Mom and Dad before, giving me the chance to reclaim my identity. I didn't say anything, just pondered silently. So that's it. Mom and Dad live in a high-end villa. How could a poor kid like Meng Yu have gotten in to see them? It was Jiang Yunhui's doing. Meng Yu wasn't constantly looking at me, but his gaze kept drifting towards Lin Chuan, seemingly unintentionally. The jealousy that flashed in his eyes was clearly caught by me. I didn't expose him, just warned him. Mom and Dad said they're going for the paternity test tomorrow. They should have told you too. Remember to be on time. As for the identity, don't say anything to me before the paternity test results are out. And don't call me brother. I grabbed Lin Chuan and pulled him behind me, while looking at Jiang Yunhui. Miss Jiang, I hope one day I can meddle in the affairs of your Jiang family. The implication was that Jiang Yunhui was being nosy. Jiang Yunhui exploded instantly, angrily saying, I'm helping your Lin family out of kindness, afraid that your Lin family would be scammed by a fake. You don't appreciate it. You're really ungrateful. And Ayue, clearly Ayue is your real brother. But you only dote on a fake. It's ridiculous. My eyes showed a hint of impatience. That's none of your business. I didn't want to get entangled with these people anymore, so I dragged Lin Chuan home. Lin Chuan was silent all the way. He didn't say a word when we got home. He was even more silent in the face of Mom and Dad's concern. Mom and Dad felt helpless, but didn't know how to comfort him. Until late at night, almost dawn, Lin Chuan knocked on my door. He was holding the little Ultraman I gave him when we were kids, clutching it tightly. Brother, I want to ask. Your Mom and Dad's child, no doubt. That one is the fake. I blurted out, looking determined, having anticipated what Lin Chuan would ask. The next day, when we arrived at the paternity testing center, Meng Yu and Jiang Yunhui were frolicking in a corner. Their behavior seemed very intimate. Compared to me and Jiang Yunhui, they looked more like an engaged couple. Mom and Dad's expressions froze when they saw the two of them. Meng Yu also looked flustered for a moment, as if he hadn't expected us to arrive so quickly. My dad looked at Jiang Yunhui, his expression ugly. Why are you here? Jiang Yunhui seemed to have been prepared for this, and calmly explained. Ayue and I are friends. It's his first time doing a paternity test. He's a little nervous. We came together to take a look. Anyway, with the relationship between Aishin and me, it's only right for me to take care of my younger brother. Her relationship with me? That disgusted me a little. Mom and Dad vaguely sensed something and still had ugly expressions. But considering the reputation of Zhang's parents, they didn't say anything. Let's go. Let's do the paternity test. Once the results are out, everything will be clear. Yes, let's go now. Jiang Yunhui acted more eager than anyone else. Chapter 5. On the way to the paternity test center, Meng Yu recounted his tragic life story. He said that he had been working since he could remember. His mother died when he was very young, and his father drank every day, beating him mercilessly whenever he got drunk. Later, his father, seeing the potential for profit, tried to force him, with his good looks, to become a kept man for a rich woman. He refused, and with the village chief's help, he successfully passed the university entrance exam and escaped his family. It sounded tragic, but everyone has a tragic story to tell, no matter how rich they are. So, who told you about your background? Meng Yu seemed prepared, speaking slowly and calmly. No one told me. My adoptive father is tight-lipped. I overheard him bragging to someone that his real son was living a life of luxury in a wealthy family, while the one by his side was actually that family's child. I sensed something was wrong, so I found a chance to secretly look at my adoptive father's phone. He had many pictures of Lin Chuan. One time, when he was drunk, he accidentally mentioned a jade bracelet, saying it couldn't be sold or something, and that's how I knew. He also said that my adoptive mother's due date wasn't actually on that day. He forced her to have a C-section. I understood. What a smooth story. So, you haven't had a paternity test with your parents? Meng Yu froze, blushing. Sorry, I didn't think of that. Seeing this, Jiang Yunhui gently patted his back and then snapped at me. Enough, Lin Shun. Stop targeting him. He's your brother. Whether he is or not, the results will tell, won't they? I smiled, not bothering to respond to her. The doctor said the paternity test results would be available in 3 days. The next day was the Zhang family's youngest daughter's graduation banquet. Many prominent families in the industry were invited. Our Lin family was naturally included. As soon as I entered, a flamboyant young woman threw herself into my arms. I heard something big happened in your family recently. Your fiancé was seduced by that real young master. A playful voice rang out. I sighed. Luo Shui. Stop it, we're over. Fu Luoxue looked up, her face stubborn. Then let's start over. That bitch doesn't deserve you. Fu Luoxue and I grew up together. Our families are old friends. After we became adults, we naturally got together. But she had great ambitions and wanted to study abroad. I didn't stop her, so we broke up. She must have just returned. But right now, I didn't have the energy to think about my own marriage. I had just seen Mingyu and Jiang Yunhui and was worried about Lin Chuan. Suddenly, there was a commotion downstairs. My heart skipped a beat, and I rushed down. But by the time I got there, the commotion had ended. Countless eyes subtly fell on me. I heard murmurs, mixed with phrases like real and fake young master, which were quite jarring. I instantly understood. Jiang Yunhui must have spread this matter throughout high society. Although there had been rumors before, the Lin family had suppressed them, keeping them within a small circle. Now the whole world knew. I called Xiao Chuan and heaved a sigh of relief when I learned he was okay. As I was about to turn around, I saw Jiang Yunhui pulling Mingyu into a room. Frowning, I followed. The door wasn't completely closed, and I heard Jiang Yunhui's voice. Aiwei, you're the Lin family's son. You're destined to inherit the Lin family. As for that Lin Chuan, he's just an imposter. You don't need to care about him. As for Lin Shun, he hates you so much. Once your paternity test results come out, you can find a way to push him out. The Lin parents feel guilty towards you, and they'll definitely help you. Meng Yu's hesitant voice came through. But I don't know how to do anything. Jiang Yunhui's confident voice followed. So what if you don't? You have me. This. Meng Yu hesitated. But you're my brother's fiancé. What about it? Jiang Yunhui said nonchalantly. We have no feelings for each other. It's purely a family-arranged marriage. The Lin family can arrange a marriage for Lin Shun, and naturally, they can arrange one for you. The next second, I heard the distinct sound of a kiss. I narrowed my eyes. Jiang Yunhui was quite ambitious. No wonder she approached Meng Yu. She couldn't gain any advantage from Xiao Chuan and me. A cold glint flashed in my eyes. I left and was about to enter the hall when Fu Luoxue appeared out of nowhere and grabbed me. When are you breaking off the engagement? After all, your fiancé is messing around with another man. So, consider marrying me? Looking at the smiling girl in front of me, I raised an eyebrow and dropped a line. We'll see. Chapter 6. After the banquet, as we sat in the car, I could clearly sense Lin Chuan's low spirits. The reason was obvious. The wealthy are even more snobbish, and who knows how many unpleasant things he overheard today. I sighed and comforted him. Don't think too much about it. You're definitely our biological son. Mom, Dad, and Lin Chuan didn't know why I was so certain. I didn't explain either. The memory was too distant, so distant that I wasn't even sure if it was real. Supporting the paternity test was also because it would be the best way to silence everyone. Lin Chuan went to school as usual. I didn't think family matters would affect him until I saw their school forum. A post quickly gained popularity in a very short time. Its content could be summarized as, Lin, a freshman in the computer science department, you're so shameless. Stealing someone else's parents, family background, enjoying everything that should belong to them. And now that the truth is out, you're still clinging to their family and refusing to leave. Why don't you just die? The specific content was even more filled with profanity. I frowned as I read it and quickly spent money to use my connections to have the post deleted. However, while the most popular post was deleted, countless others were still being posted. It was like a premeditated attack. The culprit was naturally Meng Yu, the beneficiary of this whole disaster. I suddenly couldn't understand this person. Wasn't he certain that he was the one who was switched? Why was he being so aggressive? Was it just to vent his anger? As soon as these posts appeared on Lin Chuan's school forum, I immediately asked him to take leave and come home. But even so, because many people believed it, they dug up Lin Chuan's contact information. All kinds of insults, curses, and unpleasant words were endless. I immediately cut off Lin Chuan's contact with the outside world. After telling Mom and Dad about the situation, we went to find Mingyu together. When he saw us, he radiated an air of excitement. I looked at him coldly. "What's going on with the posts on your school forum?" Mingyu was stunned. "What posts?" I didn't speak, but directly threw the previous screenshots to him. Then I began to observe his expression. I clearly saw a flash of triumph in his eyes. Obviously, the matter was clear, but then he suddenly reddened his eyes. "This? Brother, are you suspecting that I posted this? I know you like Lin Chuan, but I'm your real younger brother." My expression remained calm. "Before the paternity test results come out, please don't presume to claim that relationship." Mingyu became even more upset and looked at Mom and Dad. "Do you think so too? He's the one who stole my life, but now you're standing on his side to scold me and wrong me, just because I'm the one who benefits from this post? If I were the one who grew up with Mom and Dad since childhood, wouldn't you be so suspicious of me?" Mingyu's eyes were filled with hurt. He was hateful. He hated the person who stole his life. This expression was so genuine that even I was momentarily confused. But what the truth is, we'll have to wait for the paternity test, won't we? Chapter 7. Ayo. Jiang Yunhui's voice rang out behind me. She rushed over, shoving me aside to reach Mingyu. Shielding the seemingly injured Mingyu, she glared angrily at my parents. "What are you doing? He's your own son. Why are you always making things difficult for him? Hurting him? And all for an outsider. Don't you know how much he's suffered all these years?" My gaze bypassed Jiang Yunhui, landing coldly on Mingyu. "Did you give him the key?" My parents, who were about to speak, reacted and stared intently at the two of them. I sneered, "First the paternity test delivery, and now this. Jiang Yunhui, as my fiancé, you appear around Mingyu quite frequently." My parents frowned even deeper. Mingyu quickly explained, "Brother, don't misunderstand. I gave the key to Yunhui. This is a villa area. I've never lived in one before, so I'm not used to it. I asked Yunhui to come and see me. I originally wanted to ask you, brother, but you don't seem to like me very much." His words were so well-crafted, I almost wanted to applaud. He highlighted being swapped at birth, never having lived in a villa area, and then poisoned my parents against me. But he miscalculated. My parents' attention was now entirely focused on their relationship, their suspicious gazes shifting back and forth between the two. "Enough with the tricks. We're not blind. We can see the connection between you two." Jiang Yunhui was furious. "Lin Xin, what do you mean? If you don't want to marry me, just say it. Don't slander us and ruin my reputation. Don't be shameless. I'm embarrassed for you. But since you brought it up, let's break off the engagement." I looked at my parents. "Contact the Jiang family and settle this. It's better to get rid of Jiang Yunhui's constant drama." It was annoying. My parents readily agreed. They were experienced people. They could see the issues between these two. Jiang Yunhui was stunned. She hadn't intended to break off the engagement, but my parents moved too quickly, the call already made. Her gaze shifted, catching the surprise in Mingyu's eyes. After a moment of hesitation, she acquiesced. The Jiang family was initially reluctant, but thanks to something Jiang Yunhui said, they agreed. Finally, both sides reached a consensus, and the news spread. That day, Fu Luoshua's congratulatory call arrived. "Can we get married now?" As always, straightforward. I chuckled. "After my family matters are settled." The call ended. 3 days passed, and the paternity test results came out. That day, all parties involved went to the testing center. Even Jiang Yunhui went. When I received the paternity test report, everyone became tense. Just as I was about to open it, a drunken middle-aged man suddenly burst in. The moment he saw Mingyu, he lunged forward and punched him in the face. "You ungrateful wretch! I worked hard to raise you, and you dare disown me and run here to steal rich parents." Chaos erupted. People pulled the man away. Jiang Yunhui looked at the dirty man with disgust. "Are you crazy? Why did you hit Mingyu?" The man sneered. "Who am I? I'm his father." Suddenly, everyone understood. This man was the culprit behind the baby swap. He didn't give up, reaching out to grab Mingyu again. Little bastard, come back with me. The rich woman I found for you is loaded. Come back and earn me some drinking money. My parents stared at the man for a long time, but didn't recognize him. He was a complete stranger. After receiving my parents' confirmation, I was extremely puzzled. If they didn't know him, how did he find our family? I stared at the man, studying him. Memories from 6 years old were blurred, but the figure before me seemed to gradually overlap with the figure I saw back then. It was this man, the one who almost turned our family upside down. Chapter 8. Mengyu naturally refused to go back with the man. The man, enraged, yelled, "You animal! I found you a rich woman, and you refused her. And now you're trying to steal someone else's parents. You disgrace. I don't understand how a parent can call their child an animal." My dad stopped the man and asked calmly, "What's the story with the jade bracelet?" The man's expression remained unchanged. "I don't know when I picked it up. I just threw it in a corner. I thought it was fake. Who knew it was real? If I had known, I would have sold it. Then this animal wouldn't have stolen it." Mengyu looked at the man with pure hatred. Hearing the man's words, he roared, "You're lying. I heard you say with my own ears that you exchanged your biological son for one from a wealthy family. You happened to find out that someone had the same due date as my adoptive mother, and they were rich, so you schemed. Anyway, the paternity test results are out, and your scheme will soon be exposed." The man panicked slightly. "You're lying. If you really were my biological son, I could have just abandoned you." Mengyu sneered. "You harassed someone, and their husband damaged your ability to have children. Otherwise, I would have been abandoned long ago. So that's how it was." The thought of Xiao Chuan potentially facing such a fate made my fists clench. "We'll see what the results say." I prepared to open the report. The man lunged forward to snatch it. His panicked expression was noticed by everyone, and my parents and Lin Chuan's hearts sank. I easily dodged him and opened the paternity test report. I flipped directly to the last page. Tension filled the air. "Well?" my parents asked anxiously. "See for yourselves." I handed them the report. My parents, Mengyu, and Zhang Yinhui all crowded around. Almost everyone's heart was racing. After seeing the result, no biological relationship. Some were happy, others devastated. "No, this is fake." Mengyu, unable to accept the shattering of his rich young master dream, snatched the paternity test and tore it to shreds. Then he grabbed my collar. "Was it you? Did you bribe the doctor to change the results? I know you like Lin Chuan and don't want me to go back. It must be like this, right?" I backhanded him. "Shut up." Zhang Yinhui, as if struck by lightning, froze in place. The middle-aged man, seeing our reactions, hesitated, then picked up the pieces of the report. After a moment of silence, he suddenly burst into laughter. "How? How can this be? How can you be my biological son?" His voice was crazed and desperate. Lin Chuan, seeing this unexpected scene, curiously and worriedly picked up the fragments of the report and pieced them together. Soon he jumped for joy. "Yay! Brother! He's not your brother. Doesn't that mean I must be your brother?" I raised an eyebrow. "Of course." I crossed my arms, looking composed. "I told you, you must be a Lin family son." Looking at the middle-aged man still lost in the paternity test results, I suddenly smiled. "Are you confused? Why is the child you swapped not the one you expected?" My voice immediately caught everyone's attention, including the man's. He stared at me sullenly. Looking at him, I felt a pang of pain, remembering how close he'd come to succeeding. My brother could have grown up in such a terrible environment. Now, this man would taste the bitter fruit of his own actions. "Let me tell you, I saw everything you did that year because I was also in the room. Sorry, I was too small and the light was dim, so you didn't notice me. So, after you swapped the babies, I swapped them back. Sorry, your plan ultimately failed. Just because he wasn't raising his own child, he abused him. He deserved it." Chapter 9. You're lying. This is all fake. The man rushed over, trying to hit me, but was stopped by the bodyguards I had arranged beforehand. My younger brother directly punched back. "Damn it, making this young master worry for days. And you wanted to replace me? Bah! Shameless, despicable man." Seeing my brother regain his liveliness, I was truly happy from the bottom of my heart. Mengyu was stunned in place, speechless for a long time. It turned out his life was a joke. He had lived so miserably in the first half of his life, and he finally thought he had found his biological parents, found the answer to his miserable first half. But the truth told him that he was indeed their biological son. However, his father didn't know and treated him like someone else's child, tormenting him every day. He was pitiful. I admit that, but I also needed to know that if this man had succeeded, my Xiao Chuan would have become today's Mengyu. I am selfish. I don't want my brother to suffer. Moreover, Lin Chuan was born to be the second young master of the Lin family. This suffering was not in his destiny. I was not in a hurry to leave, but told Mengyu, move out of that villa as soon as possible. That is Lin family property. I'll give you 3 days. After 3 days, I'll send people to take it back. After making things clear, I got in a car with my family. Sitting in the car, my parents breathed a heavy sigh of relief, as if they had been through a lifetime. Then they couldn't help but complain about me. You didn't say so earlier, making us worry for so long. After a long pause, my mother added, luckily, we have you otherwise. My mother felt a pang of sadness just thinking about her second son, almost living that kind of life. As soon as we got home, she started buying things for Xiao Chuan like crazy. All kinds of Ultraman toys that she never bought for him before were piled up. Lin Chuan was speechless. Dad, Mom, I'm already 18. 18 can still play. My parents said this, but they did restrain themselves a bit and started buying houses and cars for Lin Chuan instead. In short, it was just one word buy. As for me, my parents didn't leave me out. They completely delegated all company matters to me. I was a bit dumbfounded by this. Were they really not afraid of exhausting their eldest son to death? God knows how much property the Lin family had. I sighed and silently began to take over the company. In addition to this, I also took time to settle Xiao Chuan's matter. After all, accounts always need to be settled in the end. I sent people to take back Mengyu's house on time. Mengyu made a scene, but my people had already received my instructions and didn't care how much he now ed. They just followed my orders. They knew clearly that if they couldn't handle it, I would be the one to handle them. There was also another matter. That was the school forum about Xiao Chuan. I directly mobilized the company's technical backbone to deal with it, dragging out those beasts who spread rumors and maliciously insulted Xiao Chuan one by one. Then, without hesitation, I chose to call the police and refused to reconcile. I would deploy the company's legal team and fight to the end. None of those who participated would be able to escape. What? You say you didn't do it intentionally. You were just following the crowd and your subjective awareness was weak? I don't care. Who told you to follow the crowd? Who told you to be so vicious and curse people's ancestors for 18 generations? My Lin family is big and wealthy. We have time to slowly wear you down. Because it involved too many people, it directly alarmed the school's higher-ups. Many leaders, even the principal and vice principal, took turns to come forward, saying nice things. This matter had become too big, and it had spread to social media. The school was afraid of affecting the college entrance examination rate, and the higher-ups couldn't sleep well. In the end, with Xiao Chuan's consent, everyone took a step back. Students of our school could be exempted from prosecution, but they must publicly record apology videos and post them on the school's official account. As for others who were stirring up trouble and scolding my brother, I'm sorry. See you in court. Chapter 10. As for Mengyu, the instigator of the whole incident, it was him who encouraged his classmate to post that thread. Now that the truth is out, his classmate, acting out of a sense of righteousness, also received disciplinary action. Because the matter blew up, it affected quite a few people at school, leading to him being targeted everywhere. The school was also furious and expelled him directly. I heard that not long after he left school, he sought out Zhang Yinhui and became her kept man. But after a few days, he was dumped. Zhang Yinhui was initially interested in his true heir status, but the true heir turned out to be fake, and her relationship with my family fractured. Now she's being severely reprimanded by her family. Where would she find the time or resources to keep Mengyu for a lifetime? It was just a fling. Even so, Zhang Yinhui called later to try and reconcile, but the call was answered by Fu Luoxue, my jealous girlfriend. My vinegar jar listened quietly to the whole thing and then said sarcastically, I'm so sorry. Lin Shun belongs to me now. You want him? I won't give him to you. I walked into the room just in time to hear everything. My little vinegar jar pretended nothing had happened and tossed the phone to me. These spam calls are getting more and more ridiculous. They're even confessing their love now. I nodded seriously, not exposing her. Instead, she blushed. I couldn't resist teasing her. Someone like her can't compare to you. There's no need to be angry, sweetie. Then take me to meet your parents. I want to make it official. The little rascal spoke seriously. She had been clinging to me at my house since the incident, refusing to leave. She'd throw a tantrum if I tried to send her away. And if the tantrum didn't work, she'd resort to tears. What else could I do? Keep her, of course. You're already official. My little girlfriend. The corner of my little vinegar jar's mouth curved up secretly, then quickly disappeared, replaced by a look of indignation. I mean the kind that's registered with a marriage certificate. I raised an eyebrow. You can get those wholesale on Mao Duo. They're very cheap. You. She was angry, but a moment later, she was happy again. Afterwards, she bought all sorts of Ultraman toys for my younger brother, claiming it was a tactic she learned online called winning hearts and minds. She bought so many that my brother complained to me. Brother, can you please control her? We have enough Ultraman in this house to form an army. Later, my brother stopped asking me to control her. He just said, Brother, why don't you just marry her already? I have to admit, her tactic was truly unconventional and effective. When I had some free time, I investigated the middle-aged man. His name was Li Guangzong. There really wasn't any connection between our families. It truly was a coincidence that he targeted ours. The baby swap was a premeditated plan. He was a security guard at the hospital at the time, and he knew exactly where the few surveillance cameras were located. He then used some connections to obtain information about my mother. After persuading his wife, he used his connections and position to successfully swap the babies on the day my mother gave birth. Not long after, the hospital laid him off. Without a job, he turned to alcohol. His wife had no choice but to go out and work, and she died in a car accident at a young age. After that, he became even worse. Since the child wasn't his own, he could do whatever he wanted. When Li Guangzong's dark intentions were laid bare before me again, my heart still stirred. However, Li Guangzong wasn't arrested. There was no evidence to prove he had swapped the babies, so the police couldn't do anything. While this was regrettable, the two of them together likely wouldn't have any peace, which is much worse than prison life. So, I didn't insist on having Li Guangzong locked up. I saw them again at the entrance of a high-end club. I knew that club. Its target clientele was wealthy women. Li Guangzong was hunched over, looking much older, his withered hand gripping Meng Yu's arm tightly. Xiao Yu, Dad was wrong. Come home with Dad, okay? We'll find another job. Dad has saved some money, enough to get you a wife. Let's live a good life, okay? Meng Yu, being a young man, was strong and easily shook off Li Guangzong's grip. Get lost. I don't have a father like you, and you have no right to control me. Li Guangzong's tears flowed freely. Xiao Yu, Dad is sick. I don't have much time left. Just listen to Dad, okay? Then go die. You deserve all of this. You idiot. If the baby swap hadn't been discovered, I would be a wealthy young master now. It's all your fault. Get lost. Meng Yu shoved Li Guangzong. My eyes were icy cold. Those who are pitiable must have done something to deserve it. This saying is truly accurate. The car slowly drove away from the club, and the father and son disappeared from my world completely. Meng Yu's outcome was his just desserts. If he hadn't encouraged his friend to post the story on the school forum, the matter wouldn't have become so widely known, and he wouldn't have been expelled. However, he did help me expose Jiang Yunhui. I heard that the Jiang family has been undergoing significant changes recently. Jiang Yunhui's actions have become common knowledge in high society, and no respectable family is willing to marry into theirs. The Jiang family's resources are now being directed towards Jiang Yunhui's younger sister. Her good days are numbered. As for my family, my younger brother is still our beloved little prince. Even my wife, Fu Luoxue, dotes on him without reservation. Whenever I express any dissatisfaction, she says, Honey, you have to understand, it's thanks to your brother that I was able to marry you. I can only laugh. Fortunately, my brother has always been my brother. He was never replaced.